So for whatever reason, you found yourself in an argument against feminism.
I don't need a reason to find myself in an argument against feminism. I hate feminism on a deeply personal level, so whenever an opportunity arises for me to put feminists in their place, I usually take it.
But here's the thing, your arguments suck.
That's an interesting assertion to make, considering I haven't even made an argument yet.
Let's start with the most basic shutdown against feminism. Feminism is sexist. You've come to this conclusion because you've been taught that sexism is basically the prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination on the basis of sex. Right.
Yes, that is the standard universal denotation of sexism, but you're no doubt going to make some case about how that's somehow incorrect.
Before I even get into this, I just want to state that it's impossible for the oppressor to be the oppressed.
Why? Why is it impossible for the act of oppressing and the act of being oppressed to not be mutually exclusive? Do you have examples of this? Because I have examples to the contrary. I mean, during the Holocaust, you had Jewish enforcers and secret police, and during America's era of slavery, you had house slaves who were conditioned to be just as cruel as the owners themselves. Typically when you are enslaving or oppressing a certain group of people, a lot of the time, it's a good idea to have somebody who is a part of that group working for you. A zealot, a sycophant, a brainwashed lackey, whatever you want to call it. It's a good idea because these people know how the oppressed think. They know their culture, their language. It's a brilliant bit of psychological warfare. It makes them think twice about fighting back. It's an ingenious tactic, really, instilling a sense of despair into a group of people by turning one of them into a heartless traitor who would sell out his own kind without a second thought. So, yes, Fawn, it is very much possible for the oppressor to be the oppressed. Do you have anything concrete that disputes this?
That's the nature of oppression. Being offended by something is not the same as being oppressed by something.
You're saying that to the wrong people. Men who are offended by feminist propaganda never claim to be oppressed by it because they're too busy being oppressed by more serious problems like child custody, mandatory military enlistment, genital mutilation, etc., etc. More often than not, it's feminists who mistake being offended with being oppressed. And if it's not them, then it's all the people they associate with.
So bearing that in mind, quite simply, sexism is a form of oppression.
No shit, Sherlock.
I am not saying that men don't face negative stereotyping, and I am not saying that men don't face prejudice and oppression in society.
Whoa, wait a minute. Earlier you said...
I just want to state that it's impossible for the oppressor to be the oppressed.
And now you're saying...
I am not saying that men don't face negative stereotyping, and I am not saying that men don't face prejudice and oppression in society.
But that's exactly what you said! Less than a minute ago, the oppressors cannot be the oppressed, and now you're saying that men can face oppression. Like, what? You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no understanding of the words you are saying. Are men oppressed, or are they not? Fucking pick one!
However, only oppressed people experience all of that, as well as it being institutionalized and systemic.
Institutionalized sexism is an idea with no logical foundation because it assumes that all people of power and influence are sexist and preferential to men by default.
Here's how your argument wouldn't have sucked. If you're discussing sexism within feminism, it should be about how some parts of feminism could actually be really problematic for trans people, as well as people who don't assign to any gender.
How in the hell does sexism apply to people who do not prefer to be given a sex? Honestly, do you not proofread the shit that you write down? Is your brain so deluded and mutilated by your feminist dogma that you are incapable of processing basic motherfucking logic?
A lot of mainstream feminism at the moment needs to work a lot harder on being more inclusive.
That is the least of the problems that feminism has.
But men can get raped too. I can't stand this argument. You have to be a certain level of horrible to pit victims against each other, whatever gender.
Well, at least when you're pitting victims against each other, you're actually acknowledging the existence of both groups of victims, instead of just going on about how much women are the most oppressed group in the world, not giving a shit about how much worse off men are.
Also, I find that people use this argument a lot when discussing rape culture, and actually they don't quite know what the discussion is about.
Oh, we know perfectly well what rape culture is about. It's about women crying over the fact that rape exists in their country, and using that fact as evidence that we live in a culture that does not consider rape a bad thing.
I want to handle this the right way because feminism supports all victims of rape.
So why do feminists never lobby to make shelters or safe havens for male rape victims?
But in the context of why your argument sucks, we are fully aware that men get raped too. We are not ignorant.
The fact that you even need to make that clarification in the first place proves that feminism has way more problems than just inclusiveness.
Rape culture is when you ask victims what they were wearing. Were they flirting beforehand? Asking if they possibly had too much to drink.
Normal people do not ask women about the clothes they wore and the amount of alcohol they ingested. The only people who ask those questions are the people whose job it is to catch the rapists and throw them in jail. What kind of a rape culture endorses the arrest and prosecution of rapists? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of it being a rape culture?
Whilst anyone can get raped, rape culture predominantly affects women. Men do not get asked if they were showing too much skin. Rape culture is currently ingrained in society. There are people that would never rape anybody, but sometimes their actions and sometimes their words might contribute towards rape culture. Here's how your argument wouldn't suck. Every single rape prevention tip is geared towards people being in charge of not getting raped, not teaching rapists not to rape.
You are so full of shit. Society does everything it can to condition everyone into believing that rape is a bad thing. The problem is that there are, have been, and will always be people who don't give a flying fuck about it being considered a bad thing. Rapists will always exist, just like thieves, murderers, pimps, and drug dealers will always exist. There is nothing anyone can do to prevent people like rapists from doing what they do. However, there is plenty you can do to drastically reduce the chances of a rapist encountering and raping you. Our society encourages men and women to take the proper precautions to try to prevent themselves from being victims of rape. So here's another question I have. What kind of a rape culture endorses that the people most likely to be raped should take measures to prevent themselves from being raped?
That's just my opinion. Before any argument, you're going to have to show that you know what you're talking about before your opinion is valid.
Is that why all the citations you've used for this video come from overwhelmingly biased feminist websites?
I can tell you that I think socks have emotions. That's just my opinion. It doesn't make it true.
Your opinion is that we live in a rape culture. That doesn't make it true.
I'm so sick hearing about feminism. Shocker, so are we. Please help us not have to talk about this all the time.
Western women have the most rights and advantages out of anyone, so you're more than welcome to stop talking about feminism anytime.
Well, I'm a woman and I don't find that offensive. This is quite a hefty topic about internalized misogyny, and that is a whole other video.
In a nutshell, feminists will talk all day about how much they value the rights and freedom of women, but the moment that any other woman disagrees with them, that woman is a brainwashed tool. She's not an independent, autonomous individual who came to an opinion by herself that she doesn't agree with feminism. She's simply a proxy for the patriarchy to use against feminists. It took me less than a minute to explain something that Fawn here said would require a whole other video to discuss. That should really tell you something.
Your argument sucks because you do not speak on behalf of all women.
Why are you assuming that anti-feminists claim to speak on behalf of all women?
Neither do I. Neither does anybody. Except maybe Beyonce.
Well, since I and just about everyone else who sides with me on this topic do not claim to represent all women with our opinions, this statement is pointless.
When you say this, you're choosing to ignore the negative ramifications that this particular thing might have on other women. You may even be overlooking the negative ramifications this could have on you.
Feminism has incurred nothing but negative ramifications. Because of third-wave feminism, we have an entire generation of female children and college students who are being conditioned to fear and despise men for simply being men. Because of third-wave feminism, it is becoming easier and easier for women to get away with false accusations of rape. Because of third-wave feminism, the unaddressed problems that men are facing will continue to be unaddressed. Because of third-wave feminism, women are getting away with being hired in physically demanding jobs despite not possessing the strength and/or endurance to pass the most rudimentary of physical exams. Because of third-wave feminism, the atrocities that women in third-world countries are exposed to are almost entirely ignored. You have no right to talk about negative ramifications as if they don't apply to you whatsoever.
Yeah, but what about men's rights? Men already have all the rights.
I think you meant to say women already have all the rights.
So men's rights movements that are around now don't even care about men.
Bullshit! Men's rights activists are constantly petitioning for the creation of shelters for male rape and abuse victims. And do you want to know something else? Feminism doesn't care about women. Feminism doesn't care about equality, or justice, or preventing rape. The only thing that feminism gives a fuck about is achieving retribution against men. Feminism is about destroying men. It is about destroying everything that constitutes being a man. It is about conditioning women to fight against men. Because to feminists, men are savage animals who have all the potential to rape and hurt women. Feminists like you will patronize people constantly, telling them that feminism isn't really about combating men, all the while you do nothing to condemn or punish the members of your culture who do call for the extermination of men. The men's rights movement is not without flaws, but the one thing that will always make it superior to third-wave feminism is that it is not a culture founded on the convictions of hatred and cruelty to a certain group of people simply for that people belonging to a certain gender.
Feminism is ruining movies. /series /comics.
Believe it or not, I don't subscribe to this opinion. Feminism doesn't ruin movies, books, or comics. It's writers. Writers who focus more on beating you into the ground constantly with their political views instead of telling a good story. Usually that is the catalyst for most pieces of fiction sucking ass through a fire hose.
That means I can hit girls, right?
Said no rational person ever, feminist or otherwise.
Not all men. If we're discussing something about men and it's not something that you have particularly done, then that's great. The reason why your argument sucks is because you have to understand that many men have done this.
Yes, many men have done terrible things, just as many feminists have done and said terrible things. You know what the difference is? We punish the men who do terrible things.
As we mentioned earlier, rape is up to us to stop.
Do you need me to fucking spell this out for you? It's not up to anyone to stop rape, because no one can stop rape. You can only stop yourself from being raped.
And that's when they say, but not all men. Like, you may not be a rapist, but you've got to acknowledge why women do certain things to protect themselves.
Wait, hold on. Earlier you said that a part of rape culture was women being held responsible for protecting themselves. And now you're saying that men don't like it when you do protect yourself? I can't watch more than 5 seconds of this video without her contradicting herself. It's actually starting to annoy me.
I didn't mean to attack anyone in this video, I just wanted to show you just how ridiculous these arguments sound.
Well, Fawn, I'm willing to bet most people who watch my video will come to the conclusion that the only arguments that are ridiculous are yours.
But generally, you should just research things.
I do plenty of research. And unlike you, I actually spend time doing research.
That you're talking about, and if you don't know anything about a subject, don't weigh in with your opinion, and maybe just trust what people say about their own experiences.
The idiocy in that sentence speaks for itself. Thank God this is over. This video probably turned out a lot longer than normal, but fuck me, this chick was a dumbass. This might just be the most dim-witted fucking feminist I have ever laid eyes upon. Her video, almost from beginning to end, was just a relentless gauntlet of stupidity. There were no breaks, no lulls, no slow moments. Almost every sentence that left her mouth forced me to make a response. To be honest, it was kind of starting to drive me insane. Luckily for me, her video ended right as my patience was beginning to empty out. So, this is where I end my video today, folks. Godspeed and hunt well.